the topic of this episode today, where are we at now with dropshipping, the current state, it's definitely changing.
Different products that we can sell now, because I think that's hugely evolved from when we both first got started in dropshipping.
You know, because the market's always evolving, you've got to always continuously be learning.
How do you think that has impacted the whole dropshipping model, especially for those who are just starting out?
Yeah, well, it's been a huge shift in the last few years. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast. I'm Lewis Smith, the founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Eardley. Now, when we're not recording the podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. Keen to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business? My book, The Home Turf Advantage, is your blueprint for launching a profitable online store. Grab your copy at htabook.com today and let's get you started. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Today we're diving into the current state of dropshipping. So with so many changes happening in the e-commerce landscape right now, it's important to understand what's going on in the market right now so you can be as successful as possible. So Lewis, you've been at the forefront of these changes. So can you give us an overview of what is happening?
Absolutely, James. Yep, the dropshipping landscape is evolving rapidly out there. So more UK-based suppliers are now open to dropshipping than ever before and providing faster delivery times and better customer service, which is obviously music to our ears as well. But it wasn't like that when I first started. I certainly remember when I first started in e-commerce, finding those reliable UK suppliers was definitely a challenge. And actually, I wasn't even really looking for them at the time because I didn't realize the advantages of using them. And so I know when I first started, I was working with suppliers, and I would call some UK suppliers because I kind of started out thinking, okay, well, I'll just try locally then, and trying to explain the business model to them and trying to explain this concept of drop shipping and how they should consider working with us. And I could just send the products out directly for them. And, you know, I was probably targeting the complete wrong suppliers and saying the wrong things to them. And the word drop shipping just wasn't a term they were even that familiar with. So I ended up going down the international supplier route in China, and we'll talk about that later in the conversation. But that opened up a whole can of worms, which was very, very difficult and caused lots of complexity in my businesses. And so the landscape now, though, because that's the topic of this episode today, where are we at now with dropshipping, the current state, it's definitely changing. Suppliers, I've noticed recently, are way more open to it. They're way more familiar with it. They hear the term dropshipping and it means something to them. And it's not that negative association that it used to be with it. Many suppliers that we speak to now even already have dedicated dropshipping contracts or arrangements or agreements ready for you to sign as a retailer of theirs when you start partnering with them. And it's funny, like industries just evolve, and over time, the better selection actually makes it advantageous to enter that market later. I don't know if you remember when the like iPhone first came out, and it was like this big revelation, like the first computer smartphone. I know it wasn't the first smartphone, but like it was the first mainstream one, right? And the first time I jumped on the iPhone bandwagon was probably the iPhone 3GS. I was at uni, and I remember getting the iPhone 3GS, and it was just like, I felt like such an early adopter, like no one else had one. And I was looking around, and we had all these, there were such primitive apps in the app store. There was like an app by Carling, the beer brand, where you could like hold the phone and it had like a beer in there, and then you could tip it up and it would look like you were drinking it. It was literally like the extent of iPhone innovation at that time. And they had a Tony Hawk's skateboarding app, which I spent many lectures playing. But they're very, very basic apps, basic games, right? But now, jump forward to where the industry is at now. You go into the app store, look at the selection they have available now. From like state-of-the-art fitness apps that synchronize with fitness trackers and wearables that you have, to incredible games and like VR games and productivity apps and AI apps. Like, the industry has evolved so much that you have so much more selection now. And the same is true with dropshipping. You know, yeah, sure, you could have started years ago back then, like the early adopter of the iPhone, but you would have been the one trying to convince suppliers on trialing the business model, on not having much selection of suppliers. And so it was tough. It was you trying to convince the world that it was a good idea. But now, when you know what to look for in suppliers and a niche, and you know exactly what to say to them, you can find suppliers everywhere. And the beauty of it is that many of them won't even need convincing for you to work with them, because they've already seen how successful dropshipping can be as a business model for some of their other retailers. And so you're kind of coming in and they already understand it. And they say, yeah, we do dropshipping. It works really well. It's successful. We have it set up. Like, we have the facility. That wasn't the case a few years ago. So remember, you don't need 100% market share either, because if you're in the e-commerce industry, well, that industry is growing. Every year, more and more people buy stuff online. And so because online shopping is growing, you just need your slice of that ever-growing pie to replace your income. The same is true of niches as well. With more people shopping online, it means that even more niches are becoming viable as well. It used to be that actually you could only sell the really popular stuff online because it wasn't worthwhile building a business around really like niche products. But actually quite obscure products are now purchased at a high enough frequency to make them viable niches to build a business around, certainly to the point where you can replace your income as a family. And so I like to think we're doing our bit too in the education space, in that the quality of e-commerce education has definitely improved significantly as well compared to when I first started. I know that there were a few forums and courses around at the time, but we've put hundreds of hours of our time, my time, into developing a best-in-class training program and community. And there are now more resources, more in-depth courses, way better communities and groups of people available than ever before, helping those newcomers to the industry who decide today they're going to start dropshipping avoid all of those pitfalls that they would have otherwise fallen into. So that's something that we really set out to do at Dropship Unlocked. We really try and help you take advantage of the new and emerging opportunities in e-commerce today, so that you're building a solid and stable business that can serve you for many, many years to come. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose behind the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass, is for the years of business that we are generating for our members. And it's no doubt, I'm glad you touched on it already, that the market has matured so much since 3 years ago when I first got started, and even more so I know for a fact from when you first got into e-commerce. But what that means is that, as you say, so many more suppliers are open to it. They've already had dealings with successful dropshippers, and so they are more open and receptive to the idea of that business model working for them again. So it's up to us to then have the education, know what to say, know who to speak to, and we can capitalize on that opportunity. There's no doubt that it's moved so much from when I first started. I mean, the term dropshipping when I first got started was all about AliExpress. It was about getting products from overseas into the UK, expecting 3 or 4 week delivery time was the norm if you were going to be dropshipping products. And that shift has really moved now, because we can domestically dropship from UK suppliers to UK customers, or if you're in the US suppliers, US customers, etc., etc. So that rise of UK suppliers is huge and very exciting for people that I believe are in these more developed countries ready to dropship to their customers with next day delivery. So how do you think this shift to more UK suppliers, or more domestic suppliers generally, how do you think that has impacted the whole dropshipping model, especially for those who are just starting out?
Yeah, well, it's been a huge shift in the last few years. I remember as a seller originally trying to liaise with suppliers overseas and trying to arrange orders to be dispatched from China to my customers in the UK or the US or Europe. It would often take weeks for the products to arrive. And that was only half the problem, because often the products weren't anything like how they looked on AliExpress, in the nice photos that have all been kind of computer generated. So inevitably, when they do arrive, the customers are then disappointed. And it's really frustrating for you as a seller, because your kind of pride and joy is your business, and you put all your effort into it, and then something that's outside of your control lets down the whole process and lets the customer down. And the frustrating thing about that as well is that there's no recourse, because you can't return an item to China. You can't ask your customer to send the item back to China. And I certainly didn't want them filling up my house. I didn't have the margin to go and hire a third-party fulfillment center so that I could then send them to there. So I just had to make a loss. I just had to write off those sales when that happened. And it did happen quite frequently because the quality of the products was so poor. And so since adapting and now working with the local suppliers, it's totally turned my businesses around, both in terms of profitability, obviously, but also customer satisfaction and ultimately business growth as well because of those two elements. Imagine if you order something from a website now, you order it on your phone or your computer and you receive it the next day. That's almost expected in today's day and age. A bit like when you order something on Amazon, you expect it to come next day, don't you? I usually tick the box for prime delivery just to make sure that I'm selecting from items that would come the next day, if not the same day sometimes. And so when you can do that for your customers as well, it does wonders for your customer loyalty, but also referrals. That's the hidden part of this, because when a customer orders from your site and then their product arrives tomorrow and they're really happy with it, then their friends ask, who did you buy that from? Where did you get that? And they're like, oh, I had a great experience. It was this company, super easy, really good. Especially if you've sent them a referral incentive discount code or something to try to get them to refer friends, you can really start to see that viral growth effect of referrals. I don't know if back in the day, did you ever have a computer that started to get quite clogged up and it's quite old, like one of these old rickety computers that's not got much memory left and it's just kind of been hanging around the house and the fan starts getting really loud as well. And you should replace it, but you kind of just persevere because you're like, oh, we'll replace it later. And it gets older and older and slower. And you almost just come to accept that low productivity due to how slow it is. But then one day you finally go out and you treat yourself to this brand new computer. And then suddenly it's lightning fast. And you're like, I didn't realize how fast a computer could be by comparison. It's incredible. And you think, why didn't I do this sooner? How much productivity have I been wasting with all the waiting around for things to load with the previous slow computer that I had? Well, it's kind of the same when you're switching from working with suppliers abroad, waiting for long delivery, dealing with that terrible communication barrier, all of the problems, the lack of returns, the import taxes, and suddenly you install my Home Turf Advantage model into your business. You suddenly realize that your products are being delivered next day to customers now. Customers are really happy with them. The occasional return that you do get is really easy to manage when it does happen. And you make more profit per order. And you're not paying any like imports taxes or anything like that because you're not having to know products are crossing the border because they're already in the UK with your suppliers. And so you start thinking, I know what I did when I first made the switch. I was thinking immediately, why didn't I do this sooner? Like this seems like a no-brainer. It was like switching to the faster computer. And the reasons for it are obviously the faster delivery time, the reduction in costs, so therefore higher profit margins, and the better communication. You can just pick up the phone to a UK supplier. You're dealing with humans and businesses that are local to you in the same market as you. They speak the same language, and it just makes ongoing communication and negotiation so much smoother. So that's definitely why we emphasize a big part of our program around finding the right suppliers inside our masterclass. We try and ensure that we've got strong foundations in place right from the start, because that then makes all the difference going forward in your business.
And you can avoid all of those headaches of having to go down the route that we've been down with the slower delivery time, like an old computer, and you don't realize it's been old and slow until you switch to something else. It's like that moment you realize. It's like when you didn't realize there was a noise in the background of a room the whole time until it stopped. So like when the fridge stops making a noise and then you realize, oh, the whole time that fridge was whirring away and you didn't realize. But you have to make a switch and then suddenly, the penny drops and okay, there's a different way of doing things. And that's become more and more prevalent recently as people have realized that there is a different way and there is outdated methods of dropshipping and there are current methods of dropshipping that's working right now today. So what that does is it increases the opportunity in this space and more people start to realize that there is this domestic home turf advantage model of dropshipping that's working right now with all of the benefits that you've mentioned there, by the fast delivery, the increased communication, the better quality products. But what that does is it often leads to more people dropshipping. And that's a question we get quite a lot is people start to worry because there's more opportunity. It means there's also an increased number of dropshippers in the space as well. So what's your take on this and how should new dropshippers approach it?
Yeah, I think this increase in popularity has happened due to the quality of the opportunity. People notice it and they're like, that's a great business model. I'm going to do the same. And so it proves that there is money being made in e-commerce and people are able to capitalize on it. But there are ways to stand out still. For example, with niche selection, if you choose a niche that isn't overly saturated but has enough demand by following our criteria that we lay out, it's kind of like you're finding your unique corner in the busy market. You attract a specific audience and they come to you. Just a small percentage of that is fine. And then focusing on high ticket items as well and making sure that the products that you're selling are not these kind of widely available items that people could just buy from their own, high street, making sure that you're creating something that stands out and that adds convenience to customers and that they can pick you because they resonate with the values that your brand stands for. And then talking of brand, really building a strong brand as well, creating a strong brand identity that resonates with your target audience. So it's not just about selling products, but actually building a brand that people trust and recognize and want to work with and want to buy from.
Exactly. There are so many ways that we can stand out from competitors. And so that means it isn't an issue because you put yourself into a different category because of the way that you stand out, and you are viewed differently from your competitors by your customers because of the way that you interact with them and the particular audience that you speak to and the particular brands that you build. And you can learn all of this obviously by being more exposed than your competition to all of the education that's out there in these podcasts. You can get ahead of other people that are in the dropshipping niche, but they don't understand a lot of these aspects that allow you to separate yourself. And as soon as you separate yourself by 1 degree, suddenly you're outside of that competition. But at the same time, we want to view competition as strong because it's going to be completely correlated, where the size of the opportunity is going to be directly correlated to the amount of people in that space. So it means when there is people in the space and there are other dropshippers, there must clearly be an opportunity. There are clearly people that are making lots of money in that space. Otherwise, there wouldn't be competition there in the first place. There's so many examples of this. One that comes to my mind is if I'm doing some SEO research on a keyword, whenever there's high search volume for a keyword, there'll also be high competition from other retailers that are bidding to, or ranking for that search keyword that has a lot of search terms. So whenever there's opportunity, there's always going to be some competition. And that shows you that there is opportunity because of the fact there's competition. And as you say, Lewis, as long as you think about 1 degree change and get yourself outside of the norm, and you can do that by exposing yourself to lots of education, then you put yourself into a market of one, and suddenly you've got open to that opportunity all for yourself. So I'm going to discuss also, I want to talk about the rise of e-commerce niches and the different products that we can sell now, because I think that's hugely evolved from when we both first got started in dropshipping. So what factors do you think new dropshippers should consider when selecting a niche in today's market?
Yeah, niche selection is critical, and I think it ties in nicely with the idea of demand and competition, and actually seeking out competition as well. Because yes, it's true that there are more dropshippers entering the market now, but the demand and opportunity have also grown even more over time. And so it's not about the number of sellers necessarily, it's about finding your unique angle in a niche and then serving an ever-growing customer base. That's the benefit of researching a niche ahead of time, figuring out, is it growing, is it at least stable? And because then if it's stable, well, the market of e-commerce itself is growing, the whole industry is growing. And so you can benefit from that. Now, over the last few years, I've seen many niches get busier in terms of sellers, but also disproportionately in terms of buyers as well, because those who carve out a unique angle in terms of their retail offering, their store, and those who stick with it and persevere and they ask for our help when they get stuck on our weekly coaching calls, they always eventually find success. I'm not saying it's a really easy path, but it certainly is very simple, and we can lay out those steps because you're not going to encounter problems that we or someone in our community haven't seen before. They just typically, it's the same types of challenges that arise, and so therefore we can give you the guidance to overcome them as and when you inevitably encounter them. I know that my own business has thrived by ensuring that I always validated niches before I entered a market. So that would include actually seeking out competition. So contrary to popular belief, most people think, if I'm going to go and set up a market stand and I think, where shall I set up this market stand to try and sell some products, like a physical market stand? I don't want to find the quietest cul-de-sac, dead-end street and just hope that I can get customers to walk down it and start seeing my products on the stand. I want to carve out my own corner and find a unique angle in an already busy, bustling market. Because if there are other market stands there, then I know there's likely to be a good level of demand. And so that's why I don't shy away from competition. Because if that demand gets higher every year, that market grows every year in terms of the customers visiting it, i.e. the e-commerce industry growing, then I've only got to have a small section, a small corner of that market to replace my income. You know, the same is directly true in e-commerce. If we create a strong brand identity and a unique angle in our brand that resonates with our target audience, and this is fun, by the way, like you can do this, you can add personality to your brand, we can start to stand out even amongst all of the competitors. And a certain percentage of the right customers will always come to us. And that's all we need to replace our income. We just need that small percentage of them. If you break down the numbers and you think, okay, even just one sale per day using the home turf advantage model. So imagine you make £1,000 sale. That's your typical product price, right? £1,000 item. At a 30% profit margin, that's £300 profit on a single sale. So imagine you're just making one of those per day. One sale per day for 30 days at £300 profit is £9,000 profit in a month. So that's £9,000 per month profit. You have to ask yourself, is that enough to replace your current income, your current salary? Is £9,000 a month enough for that? If so, then you only need to make one sale per day out of the thousands of customers that are already buying products within that niche. You just need that one sale per day, that small percentage. So that's why I'm not so concerned about competition once you've validated a niche market.
Yeah, the numbers really highlight the point there. I think because high-ticket dropshipping, the numbers are on our side, and the amount of orders, the amount of customers, the size of the fraction of the market that we need is so much smaller because we only need so many sales every day in a market that we validate has got loads of sales going on already to enable us to get to that really healthy monthly net profit number, which can replace our income and give us the freedom that we're ultimately getting into this for. I think what's been a recurring theme in the conversation we've had today, Lewis, is education and how important education is and how it plays a massive part in understanding the current state of dropshipping and how we can really make the most of the opportunities that are out there today. And you mentioned that there's been a rise in the quality of education and the resources available to people, certainly since when you first got into the space. So how do you think that rise in quality and the accessibility to education nowadays, how do you think that's impacted new dropshippers?
Oh yeah, education has made a huge difference. I know when I started out looking at this and I was in the meeting room at work and I was kind of looking on my phone on the desk and trying to figure out like which forums should I look at or like where do I learn from? There weren't many resources available. Sure, there were a few forums and there were some courses that would teach the model, but it was always in a kind of globally generic way. And it was kind of then on you to figure out how you'd apply that to your local country. Certainly nothing happening like specific to the UK. Now, and certainly with what we've developed at Dropship Unlocked, it's kind of like having a mentor guide you through every single step of the process where you can just sit next to them, look over their shoulder at their computer screen, see every click of the mouse that they're doing to build one of these businesses from scratch in terms of registering the business, selecting a niche, building your store, running ads, signing suppliers, finding VA, hiring, outsourcing the whole thing. You basically got a mentor there 24/7 that you can watch them do it. You know, in the middle of the night, if you want to watch the videos, or early morning, like whenever you need to, it's there. And I think that makes a huge difference to people's success curve and trajectory in this. But even with the limited education that was available in the space at the time that I started, I know that me paying for it and using it and getting coaches and mentors certainly helped me avoid some of those early mistakes. And it saved me a lot of money and time. And it really did help. It's like, you know, if you're using a fitness app to guide your workouts, it just helps you kind of stay on track and see results faster rather than just mindlessly working out and not really knowing what you're doing. So thanks to the internet in this amazing day and age that we live in, someone new to dropshipping who's just starting out now, maybe they're just listening to this now and thinking, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I've no idea where to start. Well, the beauty is they can now learn from experts who've already succeeded, but not just one expert. They can learn from hundreds of other experienced business owners who are all using the home turf advantage business model themselves in their own businesses day to day to build their own stores. Like, imagine a stadium full of other people who are all using the same model, who can all help you immediately just by you posting a question. That's effectively what we now have in like the digital environment. And it's exactly why we built out the comprehensive learning path into our masterclass, because it ensures everyone gets the best in class step-by-step training, the videos that they can watch on demand, but also the coaching calls, and the community allows members from within our Dropship Unlocked program to come together and connect and help each other as well. And this is the bit that really made it kind of come together and really click, because we have those regular calls each week, and we even actually meet up in person now every quarter at our live events. But it's the community that many of our members say is the most valuable thing of being a member at Dropship Unlocked, and why they will never leave and why they want to remain a member for life.
Certainly the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass is the reason why I was able to build my e-commerce businesses. Without it, I wouldn't have known where to start, and it would have taken me years to work out all of the things that I've learned in 6 weeks with the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass. That's how powerful education is. And just to give you some more credit, Lewis, we also hear it a lot on the Q&A calls. I hear lots of members are telling me inside the masterclass that without the program, they wouldn't be able to get set up at all, never mind within the space of normally a couple of months for people to get from zero to making their first few sales. So education just plays a huge role, being open to it, understanding that because dropshipping does evolve and because e-commerce is constantly changing and the best practices are always being updated, there is a lot of value in getting around people that are doing it day to day, because you can just learn from them instead of having to work it out yourself. And I would do the exact same thing again, Lewis. If I needed to start on something new, I'd always, first of all, aim to work on my education, because everything else comes from that. And just to dive deeper into today's question, which we get asked a lot, is like, what's the current state of dropshipping, and is now a good time? That's something we hear a lot. And I think diving into that question, where that comes from, it often comes from a lack of confidence, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, thinking that there's something external to them that's the reason why they can't start now. And that's why we really wanted to dive into this topic today. So hopefully this has really helped you to understand that now is a fantastic time, better than any other time if you want to get started, because that's always the case. And it's always often, it comes from a place of self-doubt or limiting beliefs where you think that now isn't a good time. That's more commonly the cause of that hesitation rather than the actual market conditions. I think it's more of an internal question that people need to realize, that it often comes down to self-doubt and confidence. And I certainly had all of those questions in my mind before I started. And I think for me, it definitely came from a place of low confidence and not knowing whether I was making the right decision. But hopefully this episode has helped. Another episode that I would definitely recommend to people to line up after this one, if they are worried about what the initial phase of dropshipping looks like, is episode 59. And that's called Navigating the First 90 Days of Dropshipping. So we cover those early stages, the first 90 days, so you can understand what to expect in that time. So to wrap up then, Lewis, what final advice would you give to somebody that is listening to this and they are considering, okay, what is the current state of dropshipping right now?
Yeah, it's exactly as you just said, James. It's stay adaptable. So, the market has changed, but it's better now than ever. You're joining now with the selection of apps on the App Store that we have today, rather than being an early adopter and only having the 2 novelty apps and rubbish games that existed back in the day. You'd much rather be joining the App Store now as a consumer, because you've got so much more selection. The market is busier than ever. There are more people there than ever. So setting up your market stall in that corner of the market means that you've now got more customers flowing through it every day. So remain adaptable to that, stay informed, keep learning, because the market's always evolving. You've got to always continuously be learning, making sure you are in a community where you are at the forefront of the current e-commerce trends and knowledge and things that are changing. And then I guess the other thing would be build relationships as well. Build those strong relationships with suppliers, with customers, keep your customers happy, build that loyalty, give them a great experience, next day delivery, and make sure that you're using that to create an angle, a competitive edge, some kind of personality trait within your business that makes you stand out as a retailer. and then prioritize quality in your products and your customer service. It's not just about making sales, but remember, if you're trying to build a sustainable, reputable, long-term business that generates your income for years to come, you've got to look after your customers and make sure that they have a great experience that they rave about to their friends and family. And that's the key to making all of this work. So if you're looking for the guidance and the step-by-step strategies to implement this effectively, head over to htabook.com, and that is the place to start.
Enjoying the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a review, and we might just feature it on an upcoming episode. Also, for detailed show notes and resources, head to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast.
If you found value from any episode of this podcast, please take just 10 seconds to leave us a quick 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. It helps us more than you could imagine, and who knows, you might just hear your comments on the show. Thanks for being part of our community. Your support helps us keep delivering a new episode every week.
Now let's answer a question that we've had in from a listener of the podcast. So thank you very much to Mark S, who has asked us a question, which I will pose to you now, Lewis. And remember, if you are listening now and you have a question for the podcast, remember you can get your questions in simply by commenting on the YouTube video version of this episode. So this week, the question has come in from Mark S, as I said, and he has asked, is there a guarantee that comes with joining the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass?
Thanks for your question, Mark. And yeah, absolutely. So when you're investing in your future, I think it's crucial to understand what guarantees really mean. Because just like a university can't guarantee you a high-paying job when you graduate, a gym that you join can't promise you a perfect physique. We can't guarantee success without your commitment. That's key to all of this. You are the business owner. But here's what we do guarantee. You'll have every tool, every resource, and all of the support you need to succeed. I've seen members of ours transform their businesses by following our step-by-step guidance, like Jared, who went from zero to, I think it was £4 million, and Suraj, who went from zero to £13,000 in just his first few months as well. Many of those who've joined us have found success much faster than they expected because they put in the effort and they followed our process. There are many people who've balanced full-time jobs with this and are still managing to build thriving businesses alongside their full-time jobs as well. But imagine if you had a personal trainer, but for your business. We guide you through each exercise to ensure you're getting results, but you have to lift the weights. So our commitment is to provide you with the tools, the knowledge to choose a profitable niche, to sign UK suppliers, give you everything you need, and begin generating sales through paid ads on your store. And we offer that step-by-step guidance in the form of all of our content, our on-demand videos, the twice weekly coaching calls, and supportive community to get all your questions answered and help you overcome any of those challenges that you might have. So the Dropship Unlocked program is designed to accelerate your journey and really maximize your potential, but your success depends on your dedication and your effort. If you commit to following our proven process, you are in the best possible position to achieve your goal. So just remember, building a successful business takes effort, but it's worth it. I think that's the way to view it. So we're here to support you every single step of the way and ensure that you have the confidence and the tools that you need to make your dropshipping business thrive.
And it worked for me as well, Lewis. And we got so many more success stories to show, but it always comes from that perfect deal where Dropship Unlocked, we provide the resources, the training, the community. And if you want to build a business, then you've got to provide the effort and following the steps, step by step. If you do that, then that's how we can make sure that you are no different to the other success stories that we've had already. So thank you, Lewis, and thanks for your question, Mark. Now let's highlight a recent review that we've had for the podcast as well. So a big thank you to Career Ender is their name on Apple. So they left their thoughts in a review for an Apple podcast. So thank you very much. They've said, immersing myself in this podcast has been like discovering the hidden secrets and expert guidance on the dynamic world of dropshipping.
Thanks so much for your review and love the name Career Ender. So glad to hear that you've been enjoying the podcast. If you've been enjoying today's episode, then you should know that your feedback really motivates us to keep sharing valuable insights like we have today. If you know someone who might benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. Helping others get started on their dropshipping journey is what we're all about, and your recommendation can make a big difference in their life.
thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you're walking away with insights and inspiration.
To kickstart your e-commerce journey, grab a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, at htabook.com. It's a distilled guide based on real experience to help you build your e-commerce venture.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more strategies and success stories. And if you like what you heard, a 5-star review would mean the world to us, and you might just get a shout out on an upcoming episode.
And finally, thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We can't wait to bring you more insights on the next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.